Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to throw a quick video at you all. I'm trying to do everything weekly, so I'm hoping Sunday, Saturdays when I'm going to get all my uploads for you guys. So that is when you should expect a video from me if there's going to be one for that week. This week I want to talk about the RTX 3080, and there's a few things I have to say about the card. First off, what a terrible launch. We could not have had a launch worse than the RTX 3080. To be honest, I think Intel could have pulled a better launch off than what Nvidia did. And there's a couple things that boil down into that. Number one was the availability. The availability was terrible from the start. On top of that, there were bots buying up large quantities of cards the second they hit the market. And they would relist those on eBay and attempt to make thousands and thousands of dollars off those cards. And lastly, there are crashes on about a lot of the lower end AIB models. So not the Founders Edition, but the lower end AIBs. And the fourth reason I have is the price is going to go up. So all in all, the RTX 3080 launch, Founders Edition, this is the Founders Edition card, was a flop. The 3090 is a freaking it is a mistake from the get-go. You're getting 10, maybe 15%, more like 5 to 10% more than a 3080, but you're paying anywhere from $700 more for it. I don't see that as a smart buy. I think that's a terrible card, and it really isn't a good gaming card. It's a terrible workstation card. Yeah, it does well on Blender, but not everyone uses Blender. It has to work in all workflows, and Nvidia said they might not provide the professional drivers on it, so it's basically a useless card. So the 3090 is bad. The 3080 launch was a complete crap show, and the 3070, God knows what that's going to look like. So Nvidia's really flopped this launch. The cards, the specs look good. The specs look good. The features and the availability, of the card are good. The availability, the AIB designs, and the pricing is terrible. As far as AIB designs go, what's going on exactly? So, for those of you who have an AIB model, which an AIB is an add-in board partner like MSI, like Gigabyte, PNY, Zotac, EVGA. Those companies are AIBs. They make custom coolers, custom graphics cards, while Nvidia makes the GPU and the reference board design. So anyways, so I say reference board because they don't have to follow that board design. There's some leeway on that. And what these AIBs have done on some of their lower end cards, or some of the lower end AIBs in general, is they've put lower quality capacitors on these cards, and basically you're supposed to have there's two different types. There's like a ceramic capacitor, and there's a capacitor where it's broken up and there's 10 little these little rectangles. You'll see it on the back of the card. I forget what they're called, but anyways, these have to do with the power delivery, and those divided capacitors, ones that are not the big monolithic black rectangle capacitors, the ceramic ones, they're not as high quality capacitors. They are not as efficient and as reliable for delivering the high amounts of power needed to maintain high clock speeds. So therefore, basically what's happening is these cards are getting to about 2.0 gigahertz, and they're crapping out, they're crashing, they're kicking back to the desktop. As far as I know, some of it I do believe is drivers, but I think a lot of it is a capacitor issue. So these cards are basically a nightmare. The Founders Edition doesn't seem to have these issues. However, that price is going to go up. You can check out, there's a video, I'll try to find it and link it if I can, from Moore's Law is Dead, where he stated Nvidia's grand plan, where they launched pricing, and then after a few weeks they're going to raise the pricing up due to an immense demand in the market. So the pricing that we have now isn't going to last for long. So if you got a Founders Edition 3080, if you got a Founders Edition 3070, if you got a Founders Edition 3090, which personally I think they're going to raise pricing after they launch the 3070. If you got those, great. Well, 3090 is a waste of money, but at least it runs. But if you didn't, when the pricing goes up, would I buy those cards? Would I recommend you to buy those cards? Goodness no. So that's my opinion. Don't take it as law, but that's what I'm seeing. Now AMD, here's what I'm seeing. AMD, I was wrong in my last video. There's some major updates. AMD's RDNA2 lineup is looking amazing. There is an 80 CU card. There is 16 and 12 gigabyte cards, so I was right about that. The 6800 XT is a 12 gigabyte card, and the 6900 XT is a 16 gigabyte card. The highest bus is a 256-bit bus. Big Navi's top clock speed as of now looks to be 2.2 gigahertz, so about 100 megahertz less than what I had it at. That's the top Navi, which is actually called Navi 21B. There's a link found in the macOS kernel about that. I'm going to throw an image up here showing that. And then the smaller die Navi 22, which I got the CU count terribly wrong on, starts at 40 CUs. That card is hitting 2.5 gigahertz. So what we saw at the PlayStation was months back, and they've been tweaking the clocks and such, which apparently by tweaking the clocks, they mean we're going to bump these up another 300 megahertz. But and there should be more room for overclocking on that too. So you might be able to hit 2600, maybe 2700 megahertz on that card. So you're getting insane clock speed boost. Nvidia's barely hitting 2 gigahertz, and it looks like all of RDNA2, even the highest end, largest dies, are going to have over 2 gigahertz. So Nvidia's really, they're not looking good right now. And I did some math on that. Top Navi as of now, if we take, so what you do is you take the stream processors, so that's CUs times 64. So if there's 80 CUs, multiply that by 64, which is 5,120 stream processors. Multiply that number by 2, and then multiply that by the clock. So we're going to use 22 megahertz for the top die Navi. We're getting, and then you have to divide that by 1,000,000. So you're getting 22.53 teraflops. Now, an ampere teraflop is about 2/3 of, an ampere teraflop. You have to multiply by 2/3 to get an AMD teraflop because it's not as efficient. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I know that you have to multiply by 2/3 to get it to the equivalency of an AMD teraflop, or a rough equivalency. So that's kind of your lucky equation there. So if we take, I think the 3080 to start with is 30 teraflops roughly, and if we multiply that by 2/3, we are looking at 20 teraflops. So that's under Big Navi, top Big Navi. The 3090, I think, is like 36 teraflops. Multiply that by 2/3. You're getting 24. So top die Big Navi is only 22.5 teraflops. So it's about 1.5 teraflops less than the 3090. And I heard, I think Red Gaming Tech was the one who posted about this, that internally AMD is saying that the 3090 or the 6900 XT barely touches the 3090. So in my opinion, the 3090 is an overpriced piece of crap. I'm just going to say it. And I even run workstation workflows. It's an overpriced piece of crap. If you could get a Big Navi with more, I think 16 gigabytes of RAM won't cut it. If you could put 20 gigabytes of RAM on Big Navi with that 2200 megahertz clock, with the 80 CUs, you're golden. I think you're going to have a killer card, just you have to list it for a little bit less. But other than that, it's going to be an amazing, amazing card. And I think a lot of people will buy that card. So my point is here, Big Navi, and then the other Navi I want to make real quick, is 2050 megahertz. That's 20.99 teraflops, about 21 teraflops. So that comes in over the 3080. So all in all, Nvidia is going to be in a really bad position. Now, Nvidia is not going to get crushed like Intel from this. But Nvidia will be suffering some blows. They are going to be losing some market share to AMD just because with the issue with the AIBs on the 3080, that's discouraging customers from buying cards. That's discouraging customers who are going to buy a 3070. And the 3090 was such limited supply and such a limited market share, no one's really basing their 3070 buys off that, I don't think. But the flagship card is supposed to speak for, the pinnacle of their innovation and the overall quality of the lineup. And when the flagship card is a complete and utter flop, it's going to seriously make people wonder, should I buy these cards? Not to mention when Nvidia really raises prices, which I still think they're going to do, it's going to be a terrible buy. And AMD has a card for every single card in Nvidia's lineup. They're covering the whole product stack. They're even covering the 3090, and they're doing what they did with Intel. They do this with Intel, guys, and I told you. I said AMD is going to do what they did to Nvidia, what they did to Intel. They're going to provide a little bit less price, a little bit less features, a little bit less performance, but the price to performance is much, much better. You can lose, anywhere from 2 to 5%, maybe 10% at the most, but you're saving a couple $100. So from 100, 200, 300, 400, maybe even $500 buying an AMD card. I really don't know what these things will be priced at, so I can't say. But I think top Navi is going to be $1,000. If that's the case, it's $500 less than the 3090, and it's going to perform about the same. Probably even better because Nvidia's drivers for that thing aren't great because they're not pro drivers. And on top of them not being pro drivers, the way I'm seeing things, you're getting, about 5-10%, maybe 15%, but that's a lot of Blender applications and such. So about 5-10%. Conservatively, I'm going to say about 8-9% more than the 3080 in regular gaming and traditional applications. So the 3090 is a terrible card. So I think if AMD can really work on their drivers, which I know they've been working heavily in software lately, finding a DLSS solution and dramatically improving their drivers, I think the 3090 is toast. So AMD very well could take back the GPU market this year. And another reason we have to look at this too, why AMD is doing so well, look at AMD and look at who they're working with. Microsoft and Sony. This isn't all of AMD's R&D. That's why they're able to do so well, is because AMD, remember, they're still, I think, bankrupt. They were really bankrupt a few years ago, though. They couldn't spend a lot of money on R&D. But by working with companies like Microsoft and Sony and Microsoft are doing their own R&D in the PlayStation. Gosh, I'm forgetting everyone's names today. So Mark Cerny in his presentation stated that AMD and Sony are working together and sharing information and such. And he said that we could expect to see some of the technology of the PlayStation transfer over to the desktop cards. And we're going to see that here with some of the ways the geometry is handled. Definitely in RDNA3, we're going to see that. RDNA2, it's a bit up in the air. Some of the ray tracing performance, and possibly some of the clock speeds. So, all in all, that's kind of some of my point there, that AMD with these console partners, they're really going to be able to improve their desktop cards and improve their competitiveness to Nvidia because they have more R&D, which allows them to create better products. So, like I said, all in all, it's a great buy if you're going to be looking at getting an AMD card. I really think AMD is going to be on top this time. I know they have cards that'll beat the 3080. And the 3080 20 gigabyte, mind you, is the 3080 exact same performance with 10 gigabytes more of VRAM. So it's more of a true 4K card, but you're not going to be getting any more actual performance. So if you're not really utilizing 4K or you're not utilizing a workflow where you need to have a large amount of VRAM, buying that card's useless. AMD's card will still beat it out. And it's going to have 12 gigabytes of VRAM, possibly 16. So looking at that, AMD is going to be the better buy in my opinion. I'm not saying this to fanboy AMD. I'm saying this to be real with you. AMD is going to win. And I'm not talking highest performance, highest frames per second, best specs. I'm talking about performance to price across the whole product stack. We're not looking at just mid-range down. Whole product stack, AMD's going to win. And I will tell you that something else I heard, I think it was Moore's Law is dead. AMD has a card, and they are comparing it to the Quadro 6000. That's Nvidia's top workstation server GPU, the Quadro 6000. No, workstation GPU, not server GPU. So if AMD is a card that is going to fight with the Quadro 6000, I would say AMD's really back in the game on this one. I think people underestimated AMD. I think that AMD was the underdog, the silent attacker to the market share. And then Intel's going to come in. Everyone's going to assume Intel's going to do great with its Z lineup. And then Intel's going to be just the clown that walks on stage, the big red nose and the funny rainbow hair. It's going to do its little jig. And we're all going to laugh at it because it's basically going to be crap. And I'm not saying this because I'm not saying this because I don't like, I don't think they have a chance. It's just, I'm saying this because Intel's really good at screwing stuff up. And they're really good about not listening to their market and their customers. So Intel's going to do what Intel wants to do, which isn't what the market wants to do. So, and typically Intel's pricing is insane. Intel could release very, very inexpensive graphics cards. But looking at what they do with their CPUs, I don't find that likely. So Intel Z, I think it's going to be a complete ripoff. I think it's going to be useless. I think they're basically going to be some sort of, they're going to float around. Could they do better in the next 5-10 years? Possibly. But I think the first few years, it's going to be a very, very rough road. And they'll really have to have low pricing. You know, when you launch a product, you got to give it really 2 years to mature. That's why I told people with the 2021 Ford F-150 hybrid, I said, don't buy that truck. I said, that's the first time Ford's made a hybrid truck. Don't do it. Wait 2 years, let all the bugs, let all the kinks work themselves out. Let the design team come up with a new model, and then 2 models down, get a Ford F-150 hybrid, because it'll be much more stable. There'll be things worked out. So Sony already, you have to kind of take, when you're launching a brand new product, you have to take it as R&D a little bit. It is a final shipping merchandise, but you do have to treat it a little bit like R&D, and you shouldn't charge as high as possible for it, because quite frankly, it's a brand new technology. A lot can go wrong, and there's a lot of things, even when you're testing in a lab and such, you're not getting as much feedback as you would be from tens to hundreds of thousands of people across the world using different workflows with different system configurations and such. So ultimately, if Intel comes out with high pricing and they're trying to be in Nvidia pricing, or I think even AMD's pricing, to be honest, if they're above that or equal to that, I think Intel's ripping people off. And I may be wrong, but I just think it doesn't make sense. I think Intel really needs to come in lower. But that's a whole other story. I'll get into that in another video. Bottom line is 3080 was a complete wreck. RDNA2 is going to be a beast. And if I was you, I would at least hold off till November 11th to look for a new graphics card. That is all I have for you today. Drop what you think down in the comments below. Tell me what you'd like to see in future videos. I know I wanted to give some Nvidia news to you folks because I was talking a whole lot about AMD recently, so I want to talk about Nvidia. And I threw a little Intel in there too. I'm going to talk about more about CPUs. We are still on track for a live stream on October the 8th for the Zen 3 launch, so join me all there. It's going to be a YouTube line video. I'll schedule it probably a day in advance to let everyone put a notification on that if you want to join. Let's try to get to 50 subscribers before the end of this month. We have, I believe, 3 days left. So 3 days left to get me to 50 subscribers. Please like, comment, share. Thank you very much for watching the channel. I'm happy you tuned in, and bye.